Hi, in our last video we discussed what exactly functions are and how exactly a function is written in Rust. In this one we'll try to understand what exactly control flows are, and for the part 1 of it we'll try to understand what exactly if, else and match expressions are. Now if you have experience with any of the coding languages, if and else is quite common to you and match is similar to switch cases. But it is better to recap these concepts and understand how exactly Rust uses these concepts. So a control flow means how your program decides which code to run based on conditions or loops. So it is basically the flow of your code. If your a code is supposed to handle different conditions, you'll have to use these control flow expressions in order to make sure you get the desired output of your function or of your code. So I'll briefly discuss how exactly we write if and else statements and then what exactly we do with matches. In previous video we already wrote an example of what exactly if condition is. So if you see here, we are using print sum, and based on a condition whether a plus b is greater than 10, we are returning a plus b and a minus b together. That is a tuple of these two values. Else what we do is we return 0. So this is a normal example of how exactly an if and else statement works, or if basic if statement works, and if it is not true then we go ahead with this one. Now in the Notion doc I have already shared some examples where exactly what we do here is I'll just copy this and paste it here. Now if I run this, I'll just clear this and I do a cargo run. Here you could see number 10 is a positive number. So if I keep on changing the value of 10, say suppose I make it minus 10 and do a cargo run, then 10 or we get a print of negative number. And if I change the number as 0 and do a cargo run, then it is printing 0. So this is how basic control flows are controlled using if and else statement. There is a else if as well, so if you want to add multiple conditions here, you could do it. Now if you remember, I said if and else conditions are basically expressions. But what does that mean? Why exactly I said these are expressions? These are expressions because they can return a value as well, or they can assign a value to a variable. What do I mean with that? I mean, if I say let result equals if number is greater than 0, print positive number. If it is less than 0, print negative number, else print 0. Now result has the capacity to get a return from these computations or these control flows. Let me show you. If I delete these print statements from here, so these print statements, they basically become string values. Now if I want this expression to return me some values, I'll have to remove the semicolons, which we have understood in the previous lecture or the previous video, that if there are no semicolons, then Rust assumes that this is the return statement which our code is having, or our conditional operation is having. So basically what becomes, result will now have any of these values. Now since it is an expression, I'd like to close it with a semicolon, and what I'll do here is I'll write a print ln statement to print these values, and we do a print of result. Now if I do a cargo run, you could see 0 being printed here, which is basically what we are doing here is printing the result, and result has been obtained based on this condition. So if else statements can be used as expression as well in Rust. Now let's move to what exactly is match. If you have some experience in writing switch cases, match is basically the same thing. I could nest these conditions extensively. I could write multiple else ifs, but it doesn't look like a very readable code, right? I want this code to be more extensive. Say suppose if I say number is 7 and I want to print the number 7 here, then it becomes very difficult, right? Or if I want to print the number of days or the name of the day, then it becomes very difficult, right, to add these many else if conditions. It is better to go ahead with match or switch case. In Rust we call it match, but basically it's a switch case in any other different language. So why are we focusing on this? Because it is also a control operation. Just for example, if I say day is 3, and if you could see the syntax here, match day is basically 1 pointing towards print Monday, 2 pointing towards Tuesday, 3 pointing towards Wednesday, and the default value is expressed by a underscore. Let me write it for you. So if we have day is equal to 3, I'll say match day and basically open the curly braces just like this, and I'll write 1 print ln Monday, 2 print ln Tuesday, 3, and so on and so forth, like Wednesday, and a default value print, say suppose random day. Now the thing you could see here is there is a comma, which means these are not ending here, these are basically bypassing to the next value. Even if you see the last statement, there is a comma here, which means these are just bypassing to the next value. And now if you want to print it, you could just do a cargo run, and you could see Wednesday being printed because the day's value is 3, and at 3 we print Wednesday. Now match is also an expression just like if and else conditions. What do I mean with that? I mean match can also return values if we want to store them into variables. Let me show you with an example. If I say let weekday equals match, I'll have to update these functions or this particular condition statement so that it starts returning me values. I'll just make all these values a string, and now since this becomes an expression, so it should end with a semicolon. And what I'll do here is I'll just print the value of weekday, and I'll do a cargo run, and you could see weekday is basically Wednesday. So this is how the conditional flow or if else as well as match works in Rust. It's quite simple, and yeah, that's all for this one. I'll continue with control statements or control flow part 2 in the next one. Thanks.